Welcome to Real Crusades History, the complete history of the Crusades series. Part 1, The Rise of Islam and its Impact on Christian Civilization. Episode 1, Muhammad and the Origins of Islam. At the end of this video, a full list of scholarly sources used will be provided. It is impossible to consider the origins of the Crusades movement of Western Europe without also considering the origins of Islam. The rise of Islam would have a tremendous impact on Christian civilization, and indeed place Christendom in a desperate defensive situation, faced with two options: fight or be destroyed. When Muhammad died in 632, his followers began a lightning-fast conquest, swallowing up 2/3 of the Christian world. Muhammad had transformed the disunited Arab tribes into a united nation through Islam. But what was it about Islam that transformed the Arabs into world conquerors? In the early 7th century, Arabia was polytheistic. The various Arab tribes honored a variety of desert deities at the shrines of Mecca. Amid this atmosphere of religious diversity, Muhammad began to proclaim himself the prophet of God. He demanded the destruction of all the shrines in Mecca, insisting that there was no God but Allah. Muhammad's charisma attracted followers, but his message offended most Meccans. In 622, he was exiled from Mecca. Muhammad and his followers fled to Medina, which was nearly half Jewish. Almost all non-Jewish Medinans converted to Islam, proclaiming Muhammad their ruler. Now Lord of Medina, Muhammad began a campaign of profitable caravan raids on the people of Mecca, many of which he himself led. An exchange between Muhammad and a Muslim regarding these raids is interesting. The Prophet passed by me at a place called Al-Abwa, or Wad Dan, and was asked whether it was permissible to attack al-mushrikun, infidel warriors, at night, with the probability of exposing their women and children to danger. The Prophet replied, "They, the women and children, are from them, the infidels." Infuriated by Muhammad's raids, the Meccans set out to crush the Muslims. In 624, Muhammad and his warriors stood against a huge Meccan host at the wells of Badr. Though outnumbered, Muhammad led the Muslims to victory. During this battle, one young Muslim turned to Muhammad and asked, "Is there nothing between me and paradise but to be killed by these men?" Muhammad answered, "No, nothing." Immediately, this Muslim rushed into the thick of the fighting, where he was slain. Muhammad promised that any Muslim who dies fighting non-Muslims will gain paradise, where he will have beautiful virgins to pleasure him. In 625, the Meccans defeated the Muslims at the Battle of Uhud, and almost killed Muhammad himself. A few Muslims carried Muhammad's battered body to a cave where he could hide from the triumphant Meccans. In 627, the Meccans again tried to rid themselves of Muhammad by striking Medina, but the Muslims successfully defended the city. Next year, Muhammad led a small group of Muslims on pilgrimage to Mecca, and the Meccans, refusing to attack unarmed pilgrims, agreed to a peace treaty. Perhaps the Meccans had forgotten that Muhammad himself had attacked unarmed civilians in his caravan raids. Finally, in 630, Muhammad gathered an army of 10,000 to decisively strike Mecca. When the Meccans saw the Muslims' great numbers, they lost all hope of resisting. They surrendered the city to Muhammad. Ibn Ishaq says that the people of Mecca converted to Islam, quote, voluntarily and involuntarily. Muhammad acted quickly to make himself supreme over all Arabia. He sent delegates to every Arabian city, offering two options: submit to Muhammad's rule or face war to the death. Though a few cities tried vainly to defend themselves against Muhammad, eventually the entire peninsula surrendered. In 632, Muhammad led a massive pilgrimage to Mecca, at which his every action was carefully documented by the Muslims. Muhammad, for Islam, became the ideal man, his behavior enshrined as perfect. By 633, Muhammad was dead of a fever. He designated Abu Bakr as his heir, the new supreme leader of Islam, the Caliph. As mentioned earlier, Muhammad became, for Muslims, the ideal man, both by his example and by the commands of Islam. Muhammad showed the Arabs how they were to conduct themselves. Muhammad was a triumphant military leader who used aggressive conquest to expand his domain, until he ultimately controlled the whole of Arabia. Muslims, from this point on, would imitate Muhammad through a fairly consistent policy of military imperialism, with the goal of subjugating the world to Islamic government. Indeed, Islam traditionally divides the world into two spheres: the Dar al-Islam, the House of Islam, and the Dar al-Harb, the House of War. After Muhammad's death, the House of Islam included only Arabia. So the Christian world then was automatically considered by Muhammad's followers to be a part of the House of War, and they proceeded to attack it and demand its subjugation to their power. A couple of quotes from the Quran. "I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Therefore strike off their heads and strike off every fingertip of them." Quran 8:12. "Slay the idolaters wherever you find them. Take them captive and besiege them and lie in wait for them in every ambush." From looking over the history of Muhammad's life and the idea of jihad contained in Islam, the early Islamic conquests make perfect sense. It was Muhammad's very life example, along with the requirement of holy war in Islam, which led the Arabs, previously content to remain in Arabia, to set out on a massive campaign of assault and conquest in the Christian world, which resulted in the fall of 2/3 of Christendom to the Islamic Empire. In the next video, we'll discuss Islam's first attacks on Christian civilization, as well as the first Christian regions to fall to the early Arab conquests. Thanks for watching. If you like my work and want to support it, please consider making a PayPal donation using the PayPal link in the About box.